Good evening, everyone. I want to call to order the regular meeting of the Prairie Municipal Authority. It is November 6, 2017. Roll call, please.
Kolar, Gilbreath, Franklin,
Here.
Marshall, Ahern,
Here.
Seabolt, here, Morrell, Streller,
Here.
Johnson.
Here. I do declare a quorum. Bill, would you do our invocation, please?
You bet. Will y'all pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity to join together here this evening to do the business of the city. I just ask that you clear our minds of all agendas and thoughts that we may have, and let us all come together for the betterment of this city. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for who you are. I thank you for your protection that you give us every day. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to gather in many different ways in this country and express our freedoms that we have. I just thank you again for who you are and what you represent in each and every one of our lives. I pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. It has 2 items, A and B. Would anyone like to further discuss either one of those, or you want to have a motion as presented?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabolt, yes, Streller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you.
I think it's a short roll call, isn't it?
Yeah. Item 4 is to take comments from those assembled concerning the PMA. Anyone need to make comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, proclamations, commendations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Council, staff? Anyone? All right, I will move on to item 6. Consider approval of the apron replacement around the south hangar and okay the bids.
Sorry, I think you should have left that
That's
out.
right, okay bids. I'll let our city manager address that to you. He's got some things on
We have an issue out at the airport that we want to bring before you. The south hangar, part of the taxiway is in great need of repair. Our airport manager, John Anderson, is here with some visuals. You have pictures of what we have around that hangar. Our biggest concern is safety of anybody that may go by there. Secondly, safety of any propeller, any equipment that might ingest any of these aggregates. John, would you show us your visual here? This is
Hi, good evening, everyone. So this is just a little bit of a sample of some of the product that we're talking about. There's all variety of sizes of material around this dilapidated area. And so I'll just set that, you can take a look, pass it if you want. You can take a look around at it, but it's a rather large area that we actually have 4 hangars that we lease that generate revenue for the city, and in an incredible dilapidated state. This is something that has been transpired over decades. This is not something that just happened all of a sudden. And so I can speak about it a little bit more. Essentially, this area of the airport is not covered by any grants. It is outside the measures of what the FAA does, funding provides us. There's a number of different reasons why that is. Proximity of hangars that were already constructed. In fact, this hangar area is actually built on a decommissioned runway, which should have never happened, but it's there. And they don't require that we remove it, but right now it's in such a state of disrepair that there's helicopter operations that happen right there in this area. One of our crop dusters, there's all of the hangars are occupied at the moment. There's actually 3 aircraft in there, one of them being one of the crop dusters that operates quite often is biplane there. And so it's an incredible state of disrepair. Sweeping it up would be a nice option, but unfortunately it's just like a sandbox. It just continues to generate residue and rocks. And safety is the most important in my mind when I'm doing my job, to ensure that our customers are safe, their aircraft are safe, and we're not creating any additional hazards. Of course, that we're in compliance with everything that needs to be in order for the facility to continue to operate the right way. So,
How big of an area, just in general, I'm just curious how large it is, it's in
so
disrepair?
approximately 25,000 square feet. So it's a four-way hangar, north, south, east, west. There's a smaller section on the south side. There's actually grass only about 25 feet away from the hangar entrance. This area connects to the rehabilitated taxiway that we're completing now. But between this hangar, moving north, and really pretty much all sides around it, it looks exactly like that.
It's sitting on the end of what used to be a cross-lane runway. And we ground that up years ago.
And it's obviously a hangar that's in use.
So this is a four-way hangar. So it's a square structure, but north, south, east, west, there's hangar entrances. And so they're all individually occupied. And they're all leased, and they have been leased for an extended period of time. I mean, over time, it's generated a lot of revenue for the airport. Probably not as much revenue as needs to be as we move forward. That's another discussion as far as fees and so forth. But right now, it is one of the city-owned hangars.
It's attachment 6 in your deal for the pictures.
2-inch overlay base is sufficient enough to hold on that?
From what I'm being told by everybody that's engaged in it, that will be sufficient. The reality is it's in such a dilapidated state that keeping heavy equipment off of it is a priority. And I've taken steps to ensure that happens. Even with the new taxiways that we're having completed right now, it's the same kind of thing. We can't have any heavy equipment on it. You know, aircraft are different. They're wheel-based, the way the weight interacts with the asphalt, so.
We do understand it's a lot of money. We certainly do. Right before we started, we were talking about reducing, instead of all 4 sides, just do maybe 2 sides. This is something that Russ had mentioned in our conversations during the day. And I don't think John and I have quite decided exactly which ones it would be. The north side, that would be possible. We need to make certain that apron part goes all the way to the taxiway that we are rehabilitating in phase 2 right now. So that's a given. And then the east side is also occupied with a flying aircraft,
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay. So there's a possibility that we would not have to do the west or the south.
And the numbers are based on square footage. So if we can reduce the footprint, it reduces the cost. There's, we're walking a little bit of a fine line as far as exactly the dimensions to ensure the aircraft is safe out and be able to primarily start their engines and not throw up rocks and ding their propellers and get rocks in their tires. And this is not a level surface. So we did purchase a sweeper, which works fantastic on smooth surfaces, but it does not work at all on a rough surface. That's not its intent. On the tarmac, on the taxiways, on the runway, it works great. If we want something that could handle that, you're talking probably a $150,000 machine that could suck it up and store it and so forth. So outside of what we needed.
Anything? Russ?
I went out there this weekend and looked at this facility. And I've talked to Larry and I haven't heard back from you. I talked to John a little bit. The guy that has his flying service, his spraying service down there on the south end of the runway, he occupies our new hangar. Okay? He uses that area as a storage yard for his farming operation. He uses it for storing like 3 semis. All of it on that area. And I'm very frustrated with that. Okay? The north hangar, which is not pictured here for some reason, It is not occupied by airplane, it is nothing but junk. Then there's probably, outside the north side of the hangar, there's probably 15 chemical totes laying outside. And the east hangar, whether there's an airplane in it or not, there wasn't when I was there, and it looked like someone's been changing their oil in there on the ground. The south hangar does have an airplane in it, and the west airplane is not occupied, or the west hangar wasn't occupied when I was out there.
If I could speak to that real quick.
Okay.
That entire area, that portion of the airfield is closed. You can't get an aircraft in or out of there.
Well, you just said they were
So-
occupied.
They're occupied, somebody's paying lease, they're paying rent to us, but if they wanted to fly crop dusting missions out of there, once we started that construction, there's no way to get to the runway, there's no way to get to the taxiway. If you leave your plane in there, your plane's staying in there until the construction is complete. So 2 of the aircraft were moved out of that area, once parked out by the terminal building south of our maintenance hangar, strapped down. The other aircraft we moved into our
That's
maintenance
Matt's
hangar.
plane?
No, that's actually Kelly Ream's plane.
Uh-huh.
Matt has his aircraft in his hangar. And I mean, these are customers that pay for that facility and they had a choice.
Well, I just think we need to worry about getting rid of the farming operation going on there. You can't have us putting $45,000 in there and letting this guy drive the semis out there. I don't think that, for some reason, I mean, maybe someone could explain to me what a hangar looks like an oil dump in there.
All I can
I
tell
know it's
you
before
is,
your time, I'm just
Sure,
saying,
I mean,
someone has to
this
tell me.
facility,
Well, I can tell you what
I mean,
it
it
is
is,
now.
it's been around the block for a long time, and I guarantee you, there's oil and grease and everything, and, you know, and that particular hangar is one of our crop dusters, and if you look at it, the outside of his plane, you can understand maybe why the hangar is not as tidy, that particular one.
Well, we can't tolerate that either. I mean, don't we have some standards that
Well,
have to
you know,
be?
my number one objective was to get all that equipment moved, and there is no more.
Oh, I see it. It's over on the grass now.
There's totes in front of that hangar. That's an issue that's being dealt with. But, you know, several of those vehicles, that gentleman uses in his operation.
Well, I'm just saying, we can't have,
Well, you
we can't have the
you can
semis out
you can
there
have
on-
any kind of heavy equipment, period, on that area.
Exactly.
At all. And that's where we are going forward. So.
well,
you know,
it's a whole different subject, but I think the guy needs to move his farming operation somewhere else.
Okay.
Because he has stock trailers and feed trucks, and all of his round bales are stored there, and his bale trailer is stored there. I see it every time I go to my farm.
Those bales came off of our airfield.
I know, but it's still not a storage place for it.
I agree.
So, I just think this is a lot of money for us to spend.
And let me address that just for a second, because for a long time, we have not had to worry about the finances at the airport. Matter of fact, when we adopt budgets, we don't transfer money into the airport. The airport had its cash reserves that have been established over the decades from oil and gas mineral. You know, and whenever we get money that is generated on the airport, that money has to be spent on the airport. And so that goes with even oil and gas royalties. Whenever we were getting oil and gas checks, those and lease bonuses, those were all going into the funds that were established. About 10 years ago, whenever we started, that was about $800,000. Okay, over the years, we've used that money as grant match. We've used that money to keep the operations up. Currently, we are spending about $140,000 a year to operate the airport. Now, you guys see that in the budget, but again, I've never told you to worry about it because we had these cash reserves. Those reserves are sitting at about $260,000 now. By the time we finish this year, they will be less than $150,000 is what I'm projecting. If we spend this $45,000 currently on this, we will be at $100,000. That means next year, whenever we go to adopt budgets, we are going to have to subsidize the operations of the airpark to the tune of about $40,000 to $45,000 next year. That's one thing that I want you all as a council to know whenever you go to approve this, or as the board, as you go to approve this. We next year, if we approve this part, we're going to have to do some subsidies coming into the operation next year to make sure that we can continue to operate the airport at the level it is, or we're going to have to make some changes to the operations. The biggest cost in our operations come in twofold. Number one, in employees, and number two, in our FAA grant match. You know, the other thing that comes out there, it's an expense piece, but we generate revenue actually off of our fuel sales on the airport. So I don't ever worry about that. We're charging enough money to recoup our cost and make 15 to 20% off of those fuel sales. So that's not a bad part. But we do have the other two big pieces that we pay, along with some other materials and supplies and ancillary costs. But we have to make some big decisions towards that. You know, that's why whenever I'm looking at this, I was trying to come up with a way, as I was talking to Larry and after John and I met this morning, can we cut down the size of the project? Can we do away with, if one of them's only used for storage anyhow and it's really not a plane, can we move that piece around? What can we do, you know, to minimize this $45,000 and get it down to $20,000 or to $15,000 or, you know, heck, I thought if we could somehow cut a hole in the back of the hangar and make them pull through, we'll do it all on, hey, I'm gonna be realistic. Hey, two of the hangars can come out the same door as far as this good old farm boy goes, you know. There's always more than one way to skin this cat, right? And $45,000 at this point, with our dwindling cash, to me is a significant investment. I don't want to come back next year, whenever it's budget time, and say, all right, guys, we're gonna have to make a transfer to the airport, because I'm afraid you guys are gonna shoot me if I come back with that kind of statement.
And then the next year,
And then the next year, that number is going to be $140,000.
Exactly.
You know, so those numbers are going to be increasing. Mind you, hey, maybe the oil and gas will come back. Oil and gas used to generate us about $150,000 a year. We're down to about $25,000 a year. You see what I'm saying? That's where our difference really lies. You know, I mean, we could operate this airport. If this was 10 years ago and we were still getting the same money in there, we could do it that way, and we wouldn't have any problems. Life would be great. We're just not at that point right now, and not being there, that's my concern. I don't want you all making this decision without having that financial side of it going on. I had also proposed as part of this, or at least kicked out in the discussions, adding an ancillary fee to what is currently being paid, you know, kind of an access fee. Hey, whenever you're part of an HOA and whenever the HOA goes in and puts a new fence around the addition, guess what? Everybody pays their pro rata share of that part. If we made this payback over 5 years, and if we did this with payback intentions, it would be about $2,250 per unit per year for the next 5 years, and at least we would recoup the cost of what it is to update and maintain this facility. Now, currently they're only paying $110 a month, so we're practically going to do 300 times what they're currently paying. We might lose the tenants on it, but there again, if we lose the tenants, maybe we didn't have to do as much of the coverage, you know, in what's going on. It's just, to me, it is very hard to go out and invest this kind of money in a facility that we're not really recouping anything on anyhow. You know, I mean, it's not paying for itself. Over the years and over the decades that it's sat there, yes, it's probably paid for it. And honestly, its useful life's up. Matter of fact, one of the things I said, John, is I'd almost rather take the $45,000 and go build another hangar someplace. Mind you, we couldn't build a fourplex, but go build another hangar that we could actually get real rent out of, instead of trying to rent this part where it is. So I've tried to kick around some ideas. I've tried to float some things that aren't just go spend $45,000 today and rehabilitate the taxiway around this or the apron around this facility. But I don't know. You guys get to make the call. I'm not paid to make the call. I'm paid to sit here and give you some ideas and give you some other options and tell you what I see from that standpoint. Now I'm going to put it back to you guys and let you all make the decision.
would Jackie be interested in moving his stuff to the west side?
Very likely.
And then we could pave the north side and the east side, and which would actually accommodate him some for landing his chopper out there. And I don't know who's in that south. I don't know who's got that plane that's in the south side, but it doesn't look like it gets very much use anyway.
They were just doing annual maintenance inspection on it today. But there's not a lot, there are many aircraft out there that I would like to see fly more. I would like to see more activity. And there's not quite as much activity out of that particular hangar, which means they don't sell as much fuel. Everybody's current. You know, and this is an expensive project, and it's a large area, and it's something that's been allowed to happen over time. And I'm very concerned about the money. I take it very seriously. You know, Larry and I have talked extensively about how, you know, appropriate this is, and where we sit financially, and what kind of revenue that we're bringing in, and you know, my responsibility and my position is ensure that things are safe. And if I could do it at a better price tag, or we can do it at a smaller amount of volume of overlay, that's great. As it is right now, I wouldn't put my airplane in there. No chance. And the fact that we haven't had an issue is, we're very fortunate. You know, I don't want to buy a propeller, but you know, obviously it could be worse. So.
Thank you, John.
Okay, council, we either decide to spend the 45,000 or we kick it back and say, do some more estimates based on what our discussions about the north and east side.
I would be interested in doing something to the north and east side, if Jackie would be interested in moving his stuff to the west side.
He actually just left town for the month. His brother's around. I can help facilitate that. You know, I will.
So when he's gone, you just move the stuff and he comes
Yeah,
back?
it's not here. Oh, well.
Let's all meet at 5 o'clock in the morning there.
I'm just thinking if that would be the optimum two sides, the north and the east side. I don't know.
And the absolute worst side just so happens to be the west. But you know, we can figure it out.
But what I meant is if
The
we weren't
timing
coming
of
in and out
this-
there, if airplanes weren't coming in and out of that side.
Well, and you know, we might be able to come up with a program where you pull your plane out to an area that is debris free. And so we wouldn't, you know, instead of having it nice all the way around, which we'd like.
Can we buy you one of the little tractor things for like 20,000? Where you pull the airplanes out?
Ain't good for a little lawn
I got a
tractor.
golf cart. You know, part of the timing of this was Evans is completing phase 2 of our taxiway rehabilitation. They're gonna be on site. They have the
No, I
ability to
agree.
do it.
I agree completely.
Unfortunately, thought that it might be a little bit more affordable since they were already there.
I think we need to negotiate with them a little harder since they're not gonna have to mobilize. And at least 5% of the cost of any job is mobilization, getting equipment to and from. And if they're not gonna have them to mobilize, there's some money to be saved.
And we're 2 weeks into, we're in our 3rd week of that project. It's a 25-day project,
Yeah.
so we have just a little bit of time.
Well, I rolled the numbers around on this thing till I was almost blind. And if they had to mobilize, I agree with the 45,000 for that square footage. But if they're not gonna have to mobilize, I think they got their asphalt in there way too high.
That's, I don't know a tremendous amount about cost of asphalt, but it seems like if they're already there, we ought to get it.
Do we know how much a ton?
And they do a ton of work for us.
On the taxiway?
I'm one guy talking to another guy that's like, hey, you already got the info, so that's the way it goes with me right now.
Shall we table this and bring it back to you?
Unfortunately, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Make a motion then, please.
I'll make a motion, we table this for more investigation.
Second.
Motion is second, Dixie?
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, John, appreciate it.
Item 7, new business. Any new business need to come before the municipal authority this evening? Any new business? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Became the city holiday.
Now I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Perry. It is November 6, 2017. Roll call, please.
That he failed.
Colnard. Gilbreth. Franklin.
Here.
Marshall. Ahern.
Here.
Seabolt. Here. Morrell. Stroller.
Here.
Johnson.
Here. I do declare a quorum. We'll be discussing items on our consent agenda. Item 1, we're discussing items A through J. Any discussion on the individual items, please make your motion or as presented.
Make motion as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Item 4 is the comments from those assembled concerning the agenda this evening. Any comments concerning the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, proclamations, commendation, reports, and inquiries of the governing body. Council, staff, any comments, discussion, inquiries? Thank you, no? All right. We'll have our city manager's report, item 6.
Thank you, Mayor. The city of Perry was represented well by Councilmember Shelley Seabolt and Jim Franklin. They joined me at the OML District Dinner in Ponca City. I thought it was very informative, and I think it's and I appreciate both of you coming. I think it's important that we make a presence. We may not be the biggest fish in the bowl, but we have a say. And I think it's important that we go and we network with our counterparts in other cities. We also have the fleet maintenance shop has recently moved back to the old Wise building, which is across the street here, which was their former location. We facilitated that move as in preparation for the advanced building to be repurposed. We do have a contract for that building in-house, but we need to put that before the attorney review first, and then we'll bring it to you. We think we'll have it to you next time we meet. So that would be a great move forward for us. So that's all I have right now. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, can I ask one question real quick in the police report?
Yes.
It says that Angelo, I can't pronounce his last name, but anyway, I know the kid, is promoted to, been added to the reserve police officers. I didn't know we had reserve police officers.
I wish we had a big program, but I can't right now afford to take applications and send civilians to school, and it's like 6 months. He was prior reserve certified with the Logan County Sheriff's Department before he came here. So he's gonna be an asset as far as what I've talked about is possibly when we have EOD transports, I'm not having to call an officer, he'd be willing to take transports. He's not gonna be out, I mean, he's reserve certified, but he's never been out actually patrolling. He's got a long way to go before he ever gets a car.
Is that the only reserve officer you have at this time?
We had Will, which is our dispatcher, he was a reserve, now he's a full-time police officer for the city of Langston, or Langston University. Back in the day, before I was chief, the city had 4 or 5 reserves. And
I remember that.
Well, Brad was one of them. So
Terry
they used to
Schrum
pay
was.
reserves. So, unfortunately, we just don't have the manpower and time and the money to send people to school right now. So he's already reserved. It's like me hiring a full-time police officer. That's what I'm looking at when we do hire. He's reserve certified. We don't have to send him to school. So.
Well, wasn't he employed by the county?
Yeah, he came here to be a dispatcher. We didn't have an opening. His grandfather that you all know
Yeah.
in town, he moved to be with him because of the recent loss of his grandmother. And he's a good kid, but dispatch was his passion. And that's why when it finally came open available, he left the sheriff's office and came to us. So.
Thank you, Chief.
It's cool.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Are we moving on? All right. Get to move on? Good. All right, this is nice. Item 7, consider items pertaining to land use planning. Receive recommendation of Perry Planning Commission on the application filed by Erling Cockrum on behalf of Chris Cockrum Family Trust, they're the applicant, to rezone certain tracts of the current zoning of Zone AG, Agricultural District, to be rezoned to C2 General Commercial District, and conduct a site plan review for the construction of 2 storage unit complexes on the following address of 1704 First Street, Perry, Oklahoma, 73077, and with legal description of a tract of land lying in the north half of the northeast quarter of Section 21, Township 21 North, Range 1 East of the Indian Marine, Noble County, Oklahoma. That described property contains 22.15 acres, more or less, hereafter we call it property. So we have rezoning. We have our rezoning folks here, and you may have seen a little difference. I'm not reading those legal descriptions, folks. That's a waste of time. You can get your thens and thous on your own. So
We were looking forward to that.
we have reviewed this at zoning,
Yes,
and it is recommended.
it is recommended by the planning commission to accept the zoning as,
If you have any
Listed.
questions of the owner, she's here, Ms. Cochran. And
I'm here. I don't have any questions unless you all have questions.
So is this item just to approve the
Yes,
the
just-
rezoning?
yeah, approve
From
the
AG.
rezoning from agricultural to C2.
actually, it's just to receive the
It's just receive
recommendation.
the recommendation. Item B will probably be the.
You've
One
received
step
it.
ahead.
Yeah.
So
We're going
we'd
to,
like it
we're
as
going to
right.
B,
Yeah.
which is
You're with
consider
on.
approval of ordinance 2017-29, amending the zoning from this current zoning of AG agriculture, AG residential district to C2 general commercial zoning district, and approving site plan as presented for the real property located at 1704 First Street, and with a legal description of the tract of land lying in the north half of the northeast quarter of Section 21, Township 21 North, Range 1 West of Indian Marine, Noble County, Oklahoma. The described tract being 22.15 acres more or less, according to the recorded plat hereof. This is also having a savings, severability, repealer, and declaring an emergency on it, item 2017-29.
Motion to approve ordinance 2017-29.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Franklin.
Yes,
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion on emergency.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Franklin.
yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, council. We'll move on to item 8. Consider approval resolution 2017-15 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, authorizing and establishing the City of Perry Christmas lighting electric rebate program, providing for a public purpose, providing for the amount and liquidation of the rebate as approved in Exhibit A. We're the same thing we've done for the last 20 years, I guess, is a electric rebate for Christmas lights.
Can we disqualify that guy that lives by me?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll turn his lights off?
Actually, he didn't sign up for it last year. He was gracious so somebody else could win.
Darn it.
No reason to blame now. There is an exhibit and an email from.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 9, approve the 2012-2013 Workers' Compensation Fund Plan Refund Voucher Agreement, sorry. And it's, Russ is here to explain that a little bit. We do have the old mag letter.
We have, each year we get the opportunity either to refund in cash, apply to our existing premiums, and or place it into an escrow account to earn more money. We've always just applied against our premiums and they're gone, we're taking cash. So I suggest that we do it one of those two ways. I don't want their interest, I'd rather have the cash back and take it against our premium. So that's
That's your
what
recommendation.
that is.
The council recommended, and discussed, you approve to apply it to our premiums.
Motion approved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Item 10, consider approval of payment of an invoice in the amount of $12,769.56 to MEKC Engineering for engineering services on Ivanhoe Street and 8th Street rehabilitation. This was
Motion.
included. Go ahead, I'm
Motion
sorry.
approved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Siebel,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 11, consider approval of pay request for number 3 in the amount of $262,347.31 to Evans and Associates for concrete demolition and removal, asphalt, stabilized subgrade, curb and gutter, concrete driveway, traffic control, concrete sidewalk, valley gutter, storm sewer inlet, mobilization and construction staking of Ivanhoe Street and 8th Street rehabilitation. This also has a 5% retainage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call, please.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Siebel,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 12, consider approval requesting bids regarding to the rehabilitation of approximately 1,110 feet of sewer lines located in the alley west of the old Vance building, beginning 1/2 block east of 6th Street at Delaware Street, crossing underneath Cedar to the south and continue southward to the railroad tracks using the pipe bursting method. This is we've discussed this alley before for drainage purposes and other things. What's happened is we've determined a large conflict in utilities, and we don't want to be a conflict at a later date of having to go out there and repair this sewer line and tear out new pavement. We'd rather replace the sewer now and then put the pavement out there sometime in the future, because some of this pavement's going to have to be reinforced concrete pavement, and that is expensive to take out, more expensive to take out really than it is to put down. So we don't want to get ourselves in that predicament in the near future, or down the road 10 years from now, really. So if we go in there and replace these lines and rehab those manholes now, we can save ourselves some grief hopefully in the future. That's the reason this is here. You want to address that?
We also wanted this to be subject to attorney review when he gets back. We just want to make certain we do this right. He should be back this week sometime.
He's in Atlanta. I just got a text from him.
Pardon?
He's in Atlanta. He said he's gonna watch on YouTube.
He told me, I got
Everybody
an
say hi to
email from him.
Brian.
He said
Hi,
he'd be back
Brian.
tomorrow.
Well, call us and give us an
Be back
okay on
tomorrow.
this, Bryce. So you want to hold this over to the next meeting? Table it?
No, I think we want to go ahead. We need to do this.
Okay.
We can,
Approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve it pending council review.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Do you mean council review or attorney review?
Well, legal counsel.
One's IL and the other's
Okay.
EL.
Okay,
Second.
I wasn't thinking that direction.
He's going to EL.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Siebel,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Item 13, consider approval of to replace non-ADA compliant sidewalk at Foster Drug. During the construction of Foster Drug here recently, we discovered that sidewalks around it are not current with current ADA practices and requirements. Where they were 10 years ago when they were put in, or whatever it was.
2 years ago,
2? No, it wasn't.
3 years ago. How long's it been since the sidewalk project?
About 3.
I think we signed off on it in 2012.
Yeah. So,
We signed off in 2012.
2012.
time flies when you're
Time
young.
does fly when you're having.
So, this is to replace it. Tom Hudson Paving is out there doing the concrete work currently for the Foster. This is his estimate on what it would take to do it. It's up to us to approve it or leave it as is and fight it another day.
I saw the Jay Branson was out there this Saturday, so I stopped and I seen this in our packet and I said, Jay, would you explain this to me? And of course, Jay's like, oh, this is bad, and this is bad, and this is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just want to know, have we done our due diligence to verify for ourselves if that's not ADA compliant, or are we just taking someone's word for it?
We were
No.
there on site, it's not within ANSI 117.1, which we can force the federal standards anyway, but ANSI is verbatim to ADA. And Jay Branson is correct, whomever inspected that at that date did not do it correctly. The
I'm-
slopes do not work on the sideways or the grade.
Yeah, but-
So I believe that if we say that we did, I believe it, you know, but Jay's like, it can't be more than 2%, and this is 2.5. I'm like, really?
It is 3 in some places.
And so, it's a whole nother battle, but I really, since this project and a few other projects, that I get really, really frustrated with our inspection system. And I thank goodness we have Jim involved now, Davis, and we have Mr. Sheets involved, and I think we need to set a policy that before these projects go out of bonding, they need to be inspected again. Because the bonding just run out, the way I understand, on this project. And now we're out of compliance.
Well, it also needs to be someone that's independent. I believe.
I
there
agree,
was-
I agree 100%.
There was an inspection on this project, but it was someone that was hired by the engineering firm.
I agree.
So we were sort of, we lost that independence. That I think that if we put that in our policy, make that in our SOP, that it would just be something that we do all the time going forward. I do know that, like you mentioned with Jim and Will over here, we've been doing a better job of that, making certain that there's boots on the ground and a set of eyes represents the city
Correct.
for this.
You know, there for a while, we were having some city employees doing inspections, and that deal went bad for us, because they weren't qualified in my mind. I mean, it's all behind us now, but we just need to make sure that we, and I've been preaching this for a while, we employ our own independent inspector for us,
Yeah, we've seen this on this project. that
2 or
we've
3
done,
times.
That it's just bit us time and time again because of it not being inspected properly. And we're still paying for this project.
And the
It's not
sidewalk, on that corner, the sidewalk that slopes down to the street, I think Jay said we have a 1/2-inch settle or something like that, but,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a settlement that big. If someone stubbed their toe on that where it meets the street, you know, we're in a lot of trouble. But it's just because, and if you looked out at where the bricks are out there around the water meter, they're all settled.
Right.
It looks horrible.
That's correct.
That would be really good to do it on our sidewalk going down Fur too, because there's gonna be a lot of ADA issues, compliance needs to be done there when that sidewalk is ever put in.
But we are gonna replace the pavers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're-
And I think we need to do that. Troy's done a class.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
that building's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I backed into their estimate every way I could on this one also, and Hudson's, whoever his guy is that does his estimating for him is in line. I just hate it bad that we're having to redo it. It's not good. We're still paying for that mistake of a few years ago. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabolt,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, council, that's a tough one. 14, payments to Monsoon Consultants. A, authorize payment of engineering fees on 15th Street RCB pavement repair to Monsoon Consultants for $2,580. Item B, authorize payment of engineering fees for Phase 2 sanitary sewer construction in the amount of $7,966. Any questions, concerns, or comments?
Item B is also the monsoon. I'm guessing it doesn't say it
Yes,
in the
it is.
description there, but
Motion to approve invoices.
Have a motion?
Second.
Got a second?
Do we have any
Questions?
recourse of action against Monsoon for the settlement down there on that project? No?
Which project?
On the 15th Street pavement repair? On that bridge? Is that what this is for?
That's what I understood.
Yes.
Before. Yeah.
Item A, yes.
Because that's still not satisfactory.
I think that's something we can talk to Bryce about.
I do know that he was looking into it. He was looking, actually, I think we were waiting on a response from the contractor, not the consultant or the engineer, before we laid down the heavy hand. But it is time to move on. We've had plenty of time for him to respond,
Who?
the contractor.
So do we want to pay Blaine for the rest of his engineering then?
He has performed his service.
He went out there and did a very micro survey of that whole area. 3 different survey lines down the street, where the wheel path would be on a vehicle. And very detailed, very in-depth, and shows exactly, I think, what's going on, and that is the settlement of the soils beneath the pavement, which were the responsibility of the contractor to get the compaction right. And that was not a design flaw.
And maybe this goes back to an inspection again.
Well, it does in that, one, inspection is not every foot of a project. And if they did density testing, which they would on subgrade, they would pull one a day in the work area. And it might not find a weak spot. That happens everywhere. But this one, I think the rains showed the weakness and caused the settlement.
Does that inspector work for Blaine, Monsoon?
I don't recall. Blaine was doing the inspection, was he not?
Couldn't tell you.
I
That
couldn't
was,
I seriously doubt that.
I do too, but
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah,
Me too.
we can find out for you.
Thing is, this is not a design issue. It happens on every road project, somewhere on a road project, because you can't test every inch. You just can't. And if they did by the design guides that are in for road construction, if they did 2 tests on this thing, one side of the box and the other side of the box as they're coming up on a day's work, then they inspected and met the minimums, and maybe above that. So we have a motion. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call next.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabolt,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. I think we do have instruction though to go further in depth in this from y'all's comments.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Needs to go back to the contractor.
Item 15, consider approval of application of payment number 2, Urban Contracting LLC, in the amount of $666,505.23 for work performed on the citywide sanitary sewer Phase 2 capital improvement project. The engineer has certified this cost estimate.
Motion to approve payment number 2.
Second.
Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Seabolt,
Yes.
Stroller,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Item 16, consider appointment of a qualified person, Ward 1, Post 1, City Council seat, which seat has been vacated or has been vacated due to resignation of Brad Marshall. I want to table this till our next meeting. If there's no one against it, I'd like to table it for more information. Do I have a motion to?
Oh, yeah, motion to table this item.
Thank you.
I thought you were making the motion, Gordon.
No. I want you guys to make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt. Yes. Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Thank you, council. Any new business? Anyone with new business, please? Seeing none, item 18.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, Dixie.
Franklin.
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
Seabolt.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.